Hello, friends. Hello, interwebs. What's going on, y'all? What is going on? Look, look. It is officially the sixth day of Ignitemas. Ignitemas is in the house. Here we go. One, two, three. And you know what? I had to put on the flashing bulb for you because I knew that this was going to happen. I absolutely knew that this was going to happen. That I was going to run out of fingers to show you what day we were on. But let's see if I can get a little something going here in two hands. Okay. Okay. Yes. Woo. Six. Is that six? Yes. The sixth. The sixth of seventh day of Ignitemas. Okay. So I am so thrilled about this 7 day series. We have been having a great time lighting up these internet streets with information, with perspective around what you can do in 2023 to land, deliver, and spread that TEDx talk that is inside of you. Okay, I know y'all are ready for this. I know y'all are ready. I put on the blinking lights just so we could get all seven. One, two. Let's see here. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. All right. Y'all like the extra little touch. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to see you all here. For those of you who are new to me, my name is Dawn Fraser. I am a speech coach, but specifically, I help people give birth to their stories and utilize them for different purposes, be it for business, be it for professional development. And in this particular series, the ideas that ignite 7 days of Ignitemas, we're talking specifically around how we can use your story. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, your story for a TED or TEDx talk. All right. So let's get this party started. I see you all lighting up the rooms. I know you're all excited. What's up, people? All right. So just a heads up for today's session, we don't have any slides, but if you are interested, we are also on 2 other locations, including the Ideas that Ignite Facebook group. Okay, the Ideas that Ignite Facebook group, where you can catch a recap of all the past 6 days of Ignitemas. Okay, or you can also catch us on LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn Live. So if you're on Instagram, you're good to go. If you're on LinkedIn Live, we're good to go. If you're on YouTube, we are good to go. And if you're on Facebook, we are good to go. Okay, we're about to light it up because this has been such an awesome series. But what I wanted to do specifically today, what I wanted to do today was talk about some of the things, the misconceptions that are kind of buzzing around these streets when it comes to actually landing a TED or TEDx talk. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about like what are the top reasons why people might not apply to TED or TEDx, which reasons are valid, which ones are not valid, and then a couple of little tips and tricks to think about as you're trying to figure out what exactly is your story and how can you translate your story into an idea. Okay, so that's right, Elaine Powell. We're about to light it up, my fellow TED coach from another Mister. If y'all don't know, you're about to know. All right. What's up, Gelado? I see you all up in the chat. You know what? So glad to see you. Yes, we're lights are igniting the world. We're igniting the world. This is really about you all, though. This is really about you. I'm really excited about the potential that you all have to do a TEDx talk in 2023. Okay. So today is all about misconceptions, and the ones that are real, the ones that are not, and what we should be thinking about. Okay, so I've got a list here. So one of the very first things I had a call the other day with somebody who's really interested in doing a TEDx talk. She's in the education space, and she told me, you know what, Dawn, it seems like everybody has a TEDx talk these days, right? But at the same time, it seems like it's really difficult to get one. So what's the deal? Is it hard? Is it easy? Like, what's the word, right? I thought that this was a great question to start off with because I think a lot of people do see that if you are a leader in your industry, or if you have a friend or a colleague who's really kicking butt, you may have seen them do a TEDx talk, right? And you're probably wondering, well, how did they get onto the stage when you might have a similar level of expertise or a similar feeling about like this passion to get into the world? So I want to break down 2 things. Okay, first of all, yes, if you are a person who is working on anything, crypto, the environment, um, you know, dogs. I did that because there's a dog actually sitting directly behind me. Storytelling, like I mean, fencing. There's like so many different topics. But whatever your expertise is, the chances are, yes, you can talk on TEDx. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you're a public speaker, your chances are you may have put together a couple of different things that you can talk about, right? The things that you can talk about. And I think that this is where a lot of people get stuck because they think that a TEDx talk is anything that you can talk about as a public speaker. This is the first frame of thinking that I want you to shift, that I want to help reframe. Because if you've seen people give a TEDx talk, yes, typically they are some type of expert in their field or they have a really passionate message to share. But my friends, it is a very, very specific one idea that people who are not in your industry might be able to really kind of catch on to. And really, if they were to adopt this one idea or this one philosophy, that things could change in their particular lives, right? So this question about like, it seems like a lot of people have TEDx talks, but it also seems really difficult. Yes, it's really difficult because a lot of people pitch generic topics or they pitch topics that any speaker could potentially speak about in your industry, right? The thing that we want to do, the first reframe that I want to put out there is I want you to think about specifically, not that any topic that can go on to TED, but specifically a topic that you are specifically qualified to talk about. Okay. Not only that you're qualified to talk about it, but it's something that's going to be of interest to the rest of the world. Okay. So for example, today I was speaking with a disability advocate. And she was talking about the need for us to reframe what it means to be politically involved or to be civic or to be a citizen, right? And it reminded me of a podcast, How to Citizen. Some of you might know Baratunde Thurston. He's an amazing comedian, but he has a show called How to Citizen. And so, as we were talking about this idea of her really leaning into what it means to be a citizen, specifically around those who are like either intellectually delayed or physically have disabilities, it became much more sharper and much more to the point in terms of a specific idea that this particular person could talk about in her industry that could, if we started to adopt these ideas that she has, could change the world. Okay. This particular reframe is not a topic that she would present to an audience of people of educators. This is a topic that she would present to the world. Okay. So one of the very first reframes that I want you to think about is like, yes, a lot of people have TEDx talks. Yes, you can do one, but I want you to not think about it as a general topic. That would be something in your industry. I want you to think about something very specific that would be going out to a global audience of people who may or may not know your field, may or may not know you, but if they were to take this one step, that things could really change. Okay. So that's one of the very first things I want to talk about in terms of like why people may or may not feel like they qualify to do a TEDx talk. Okay. All right, so that's kind of perception number one. And welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to see you all popping up into the chat. Keep in mind, if you have a question, if you have a comment, go ahead and put those at any point in time. Or if you're just feeling like I'm dropping some nuggets, go ahead and pass it on to your friend. Okay, because some people are going to be jumping into the chat a little bit late. So go ahead and put those notes into the chat so they can follow up and get these gems too. Sound good? All right. All right. So let's go. Let's go into some of these misconceptions here. So one of the second things that people have talked to me about in terms of this process is that they don't have an idea. They don't have an idea. And so they wanted to know, like, how do I actually take something that I have in my mind? Like, I feel like I want to be a TEDx speaker, but I don't exactly have an idea. So how can I do that? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I hope you have a pen and paper for this one because this is going to be some juicy detail for you. Okay, if something is coming to mind in terms of your life, right? Just think about your life and think about these moments that like are popping up for you, right? We all have like experiences. We all have these moments that kind of come to mind for us that we remember in life. Okay. There's a reason. There's a reason why the brain works the way that it does. And it works that way because it's a diversion from the norm of every single day I'm doing my live. And then one day, all of a sudden, the dog just starts barking and going crazy. We remember these days are slightly different from the norm. Okay. So first thing that I want you to do is to keep a log of things that you just remember. It doesn't have to be a great moment. It doesn't have to be a happy moment, a sad moment, just things that you remember from your day. Okay. Once you have this moment, me with my dog, it's going to be my moment that we're using. I want you to reframe it in three different ways. Three different ways. And this is going to really help you figure out what your idea can be. Okay. The first way that I want you to think about this moment in time is I want you to think about how did this moment impact me? Like if I were to tell the story about the day that my dog decided to bark during my live stream, I would say I was a dumbass, or excuse me, sorry for any cussing, but you might want to put your earphones in at this point in time because I'm about to get real with y'all. I'm about to get real, okay? But I would tell the story about how I was the dumbass who went live when I knew that a delivery person was going to be coming to drop off a FedEx package. Okay, really simple, real simple story. You know that I could share about what happened to me, my perspective. Okay, but then I want you to take this exact same moment, the dog going crazy during a live stream, whatever your moment is, and I want you to reframe it. I want you to reframe it relative to those who are around you or those who are external to you. Okay, so what is the lesson if I were to think about my dog barking during a live stream? What would be the second thing that I could think about? I could think about the fact that my relationship to my dog is one where I actually need to learn how to better nurture her, to take care of her, and to manage my own schedule with her in collaboration with her, knowing that she has needs just as much as I have needs. Okay, so this story could be reframed about talking about my connection to my dog or other external people to me, and what that means in terms of my own moral, my understanding of how I need to manage my schedule and how I might need to manage my time with my dog. Okay, so that would be the second lens. All right, thank you for that love. Now here comes the magic. Here comes the magic. I want you to take that exact same moment, the same moment that we just talked about, in this case, moment with my dog going crazy during a live stream, and I want you to think about what does this mean in terms of a world or a global view or a global perspective, right? So, for example, if I were to tell a story about my dog barking in the middle of a live stream, we could talk about, I would probably reframe the story around companion pets and how sometimes when we think about the concept of animals and we think about the concept of pets, we think about how they could be annoying. But what if we only thought about the concept of dogs and them barking and them going crazy in terms of the love that they provide for the world or the love and support that can provide during a pandemic, right? Keep in mind, now this is like a very, very broad, impromptu kind of an example. But essentially, what I want you to do is I want you to put the experiences that are coming to mind for you through these three frameworks. What changed for me as the individual? What changed for me in terms of my external relationships? And what changed for me in terms of my world view? Okay. Keep in mind, the moment has not changed. Your perspective on that moment has changed. Your perspective on that moment has changed. Y'all feel me? Are you feeling the things that I'm dropping right now? Right? Because this is going to be the key in order for you to really understand how to reframe moments that are coming to mind for you and turn them into global ideas. Okay, global ideas that are the reason why people would actually want to book you for a TED talk and not for a local stage, right? We're thinking global here, right? So this is all going to be about like local acting locally, but thinking globally. Okay. So once you're able to do that, once you're able to put on these different lenses, it really helps us to understand that there are many, many, many ways to reframe our ideas. There are many, many ways to reframe what it is that we know, what we've lived through, right? in a way that actually would make sense to a global audience. Nothing has changed in our past. The lens that we've put on it has changed, right? So for those of you who are like on Instagram right now, I've done this analogy before. I love it. This is actually from a friend. But sometimes I went on Instagram, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and I had this lovely filter. Y'all, by the way, y'all liking the curls? I did a little curl action today for y'all. Anyways, but on Instagram, there are all kinds of filters, right? You could have like a halo effect, you could have a black and white effect, you can make yourself look like super sexy, right? All this kind of stuff, right? These are all filters. The original image has not changed. I even seen, I think on the new iPhones that you can actually like take away the entire background on on your um on your pictures. This is all this kind of amazing things that you can do with this phone now, right? Now imagine that if every single one of those filters were a different way to reshape your moment in time as opposed to reshape your picture. Okay? All right? Y'all feel where I'm going with this? Right? It's the exact same picture, but you can put different frames on it. You can put different lens on it, different perspectives. The same goes with these moments that are coming to mind for you. So once you start to keep a log of the moments that are coming to mind for you, those moments that stood out for you, either in your professional career, in your personal career, then it's a matter of reframing them to think, okay, which one of these nuggets, if I had to explain what it meant for me and how this could change the world, which one would it be? And this takes time. It takes time. It's like, have you ever like been around a child and they're just like, well, why? Why can't we eat bubble gum every single day? Well, why can't I do that? Well, why not? Right? And there's people asking why and why and why and why. That's a very similar process that we go through in our Ideas that Ignite coaching program in order to figure out what exactly can you say that is going to get back to the layer of the why when we actually get to the core of this thing, right? Because a lot of times the things that we're talking about are very, very connected to our emotions. So if we tap into our emotions, if we tap into these moments that we're thinking of, then we're able to find that source material that can lead to a great idea. Y'all feeling me? Y'all feeling me? I saw a couple like, can I get like an emoji, a thumbs up, a heart, a something, something, so that I can make sure that we're on the same page here. All right. Thank you. Awesome. All right, all right. So that's the first reframe. That's the second reframe that I want you to think about is how can you reshape your experiences, be it anything, anything that's happened in your life, and think about it from these three perspectives. What happened to me? What did I change in terms of my own personal view? What changed in terms of my external relationships? What changed in terms of my worldview? Okay. So, for example, just to give you all a really, really quick example from my own TED Talk. For those of you who don't know, I have a twin brother who has Down syndrome. My personal history was I wanted to be an Olympian. I got hurt at UCLA, where I was an athlete and a student, and my twin brother Dwayne came to win at the and to compete at the Special Olympics at UCLA, the same place where I got hurt. Okay, the very first time that I told the story, I'm going to break this down for you one more time. The very first time that I told the story, it was from the perspective of what changed in me. What changed in me. And so I talked about how I was a bad sport, how I needed how I needed to learn the ways of being a true sport that wasn't about winning, right? That was one frame that I put on this particular story. As the second frame, if I were to think about that frame of my relationship to others, I could talk about this is my twin that I should have that I always thought that I was going to be the one to support him because he has the needs, but in reality, I started realizing that he could support me and my understanding of what it meant to be an equal, what it meant to to empower those who have special needs, right? So nothing changed about the relationship, but the frame could have been specifically around myself and my twin brother. Okay. And then the third perspective is the one that I pitched to Ted that was successful. Okay. And that third perspective was specifically around how do I want people to think about those who have special needs? And so one of the things I included in my application was the fact that I think that a lot of people worry that they'll have a child with special needs. I wanted them to worry if they had a child who was cruel to those who had special needs. Okay? So keep in mind, this is a moment from UCLA. It was in the past. But the reframe and the ways that we can reframe these moments that are coming in our minds can oftentimes help us figure out what is that gold. And that's what we're reaching for. We're reaching for that gold, that storytelling gold that's going to lead us to a great idea. Okay. So the topic that actually ended up landing me the TED Talk. Okay. So if you're having a hard time coming up with ideas, look at ways that you can reframe it in these three perspectives: individual, external, global, and then let's talk. Okay. And if you need some more help with this, this is exactly the process that we go through. And the ideas that ignite. Okay. In the master class. Okay, cool. So let's get back to some of these questions here. Um, oh, oh, I also forgot to mention. I forgot to mention that for those of you who geek out on these different types of talks, I didn't realize that this was actually something that was happening until I went and kind of like did a little bit of background research. But there are actually seven types of TED Talks that you might qualify for. Most people think about the big idea talk. I think that the big idea talk is really the thing that most people think about when they think about TED Talks. However, there are six other types of talks. Six other types of talks. There's the small idea. So like what would happen if we were to shift people's perspective, maybe just like a degree or two. Okay, so there's a small idea, and these are I broke this down in a live stream earlier this week. Let me see what day that was, just in case people want to go back to it. It was, oh boy, lots of different notes here. I'll have to go back to get you guys the exact information. But if anybody's interested in that particular stream, you can follow all of the 7 days of Ignitemas, either on the Ideas of Ignite Facebook group or on my LinkedIn page, or actually here on Instagram as well. Okay, so any of those three places you'll be able to find. But the point being is that there's 7 types of talks. There's the big talk. There's the small I talk. There's the issue. So for those of you who are like into like political advocacy, for those of you who are into like some type of issue, like social issue, that could potentially qualify for a talk as well, right? Have to make a couple of nuanced changes to it, but that works. Another thing that also works is the artist statement. The artist statement. Do I have any creatives in the house? Any creatives in the house? So two of the things that TED has recently spoken about in terms of what they're looking for are people who can provide some type of background in terms of the philosophy or the why behind their work. But then also like the artist exposition. So like we actually have seen people who have played the banjo, who have played different instruments, right? And so I went back to my own TED talk from 2013. And one of the people who actually presented was Chanel Martin. People might not know her by name, but you might know her from the images that she creates. She basically everything is in black and white, and she just has a pen. And she makes these huge murals. It's the sister from the UK. And at the time, I was wondering, like, how did this qualify for TED? But sure enough, they're looking for artists. They're looking for people who have some type of why in their art, in their work, in their story. Okay, so not only do I want you to think about these 3 reframes when it comes to like what idea you might share, like internal, external worldview, but I also want you to go back and potentially think about those 7 types of talks that you might qualify for, because there might be a different type of talk that is not quite uncovered that yes, you qualify to give. All right. All right, cool. So let's go back to a couple of these misconceptions as well. Yes. Okay. Number 4. Y'all ready for number 4? Oh, I see you. I see you creatives in the house. What's up, Jewel? I like your name, sis. Yo, did I mention that Jewel is actually my middle name? It is. It is. That's why you see the J every time I sign my name. It's Don Joelle Fraser. Um, because just as a random little side note, Dawn Fraser is also like the most famous Australian swimmer. She's won like more gold medals in swimming for Australia than any other athlete. So if you Google Dawn Fraser, you get this white Australian woman who's clearly not me. I don't think no, I'm not white. Um, I don't know why I had to double check that. I don't know why I touched my hair to check my whiteness. But no, I'm not that Dawn Fraser. I'm Dawn Joelle Fraser. So, anyways, okay, cool. So, getting back into our fourth misconception around what it takes to speak at TED or TEDx. The fourth one. Woo! I need to take a sip for this one. All right. The fourth one is I have no public speaking experience. I have no public speaking experience. Does that mean that I qualify or that I do not qualify for TED? Woo, child. I want to talk to you a little bit about one of my participants. Her name is Poonam Saxena. Poonam came to me in 2020 and said the exact same thing. Look, Dawn, I have no public speaking experience. What she did have, what she did have was a podcast, and she was in the process of like kind of like drafting outlines for different topics. And so she could talk. I think most of us feel comfortable somewhat talking, but she had never done a Toastmasters. She had never been on the Moth. Definitely had never been at TEDx. Okay, but here's the thing, friends, and this is a big misconception around what it takes to speak at TED, is that you don't need speaking experience in order to land a TED or TEDx talk. You absolutely do not. Specifically, in the guidelines on TED's website, it says, and this is for the curators. So curators have to find speakers, right? But there's a caveat. In the guidelines, they say we are not looking for speakers. We're looking for ideas. Ooh, child, I might need to repeat that one. We are not looking for speakers. Uh-oh. Okay. We're looking for ideas. Okay. That means that if you have an idea, we can help you to articulate that idea. We can help you to get that idea out so that it actually makes sense to the public. Okay. What they're not looking for are motivational speakers who typically have either some type of canned presentation that they typically give. It could be the colleges, universities, corporations, whatever. But if a lot of times, if you are a paid public speaker, you are paid to give that presentation over and over and over again for different audiences, because we all know what it's like to be in a room when a really great dynamic speaker is able to influence you, right? I feel you, right? But here's the thing. We know that if you have a great idea, if you've put your intellectual property out into the world, if you started a podcast, if you started a group, if you actually like started doing something around your topic, or around the thing that you're passionate about, your art, your creativity, right? Then we're able to show that you do have the expertise. You have the expertise and you probably have an idea. You don't need to be a public speaker. Okay. That's the fourth big misconception, is that you need some type of public speaking experience. And truth be told, you're going to want to practice. You're going to want to be able to practice once you land this TEDx talk, which is why like everything that we do as part of the Ideas That Ignite Mastermind is in a group, right? It's in a small group. We all kind of connect. We all talk. We bounce ideas off of each other. So it makes sense not only to somebody who's in your industry, but somebody who's outside of your industry. Okay. So that was the fourth big misconception around what it takes to speak at TED or TEDx, is that if you don't have any public speaking experience, that's not a problem. I encourage you to actually check out ignite.donjfraser.com, where I have some examples of people who are not public speakers but have all landed TEDx talks. Okay, so that was the fourth misconception. Um, oh, so thanks, Jewel. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about the group. So essentially, if you are interested in this process, if you're interested in getting support around this particular process, starting in January, we're going to start our next 12-week series. A 12-week series is called the Ideas That What? That's right. Whoops. Ignite. The ideas that ignite, let's see if I can get that into focus, kind of, sort of. Mastermind. Okay. So from January until about March, we're going to be meeting every single week. And during the course of those weeks, what we do is we work on all aspects of your application, which include the written content, the video content. Sometimes you might need to like actually audition. So it kind of depends on which event we're looking at. But then we want to make sure that we also put you on stage. We put you on stage so that you actually feel comfortable with the content that you're delivering. Now, keep in mind, if you were to apply to a TEDx event today, you might hear from them maybe a month or two later. And then it's not until another month or two after that that you actually deliver the talk. Okay. So during those first couple of weeks, we're really working on getting really, really sharp about your idea, making sure that it fits all the qualifications. I'm looking over here because I have over here the qualifications for TED and TEDx speakers, right? We do it in community so that people make sure that, that because once again, we're thinking locally, but we're acting globally. Okay. So we'll be looking at like, what are the areas or what are the TEDx's that you most qualify for, right? I think a couple of days ago, we were looking at the numbers. I believe that there are 450 some odd TEDx's that are already scheduled, for 2023, right? All across the United States and Canada, right? Not all of them are created equal. So we want to be able to figure out, it's kind of similar to applying to college. We want to figure out which ones are most likely to accept your application based off of who you are, where you're living, based off the theme, so what it is that you're talking about, and connected to the idea, right? So you have a part in this, but then we also want to make sure that the TEDx's that we're applying for are good quality. Because child, let me tell you, we are not about to put in all this work for your TEDx to not go live, or for something to go wrong, which does happen. It actually happens more than I feel comfortable even talking about. Okay, because some of these TEDx events are great, and some of them are very poor quality. Okay, so we're going to talk about exactly which ones you should apply to, which ones you have the best chances of landing, and then from there, which ones like actually make sense to help build up your personal brand. So what we're doing is we're accepting applications for the Idea That Ignite Mastermind until December 21st. So a little bit more than a week, December 21st. If you're interested in the group program, check out ignite.donjfraser.com, ignite.donjfraser.com. I'm going to go ahead and put a little banner up for those of you who are watching this on LinkedIn or on Facebook. There we go. And if you want more information on Instagram, you can go to the link in my bio. There's a link tree in my bio, and that will take you to the application page. On the application page, I have a lot of information around like who this is for, who this is not for. If you're just a motivational speaker, you're somebody who has a general purpose or a general topic, this is not for you. Okay, I will not be talking about business strategies to build up a speaking empire. I have done that before. This particular program is specific to TED and TEDx. Okay, and the reason why we need to start ASAP is because only twice a year TED opens their doors for the TED Global Idea Search. And this leads me to my last point in terms of misconceptions around TED and TEDx. Is that people have asked me, well, how do I get onto TED? Basically, how do I get onto TED? And this is the way that I did it. This is the way that I teach people how to get onto the big TED stage. It's through the TED Global Idea Search. Okay, there's two processes that we know about. You can either throw your name into a nomination pool, and there's tens of thousands of people who get nominated in this process. Or you can apply for the TED Global Idea Search. The last one ended on September 30th. That one was kind of focused more on people who were in Southeast Asia. Okay. Last year, there's one that focused on Africa. And we don't really know like what exactly the team from TED is going to be doing for this year or going into the future. Okay. But we do know that they typically open their applications through this process or a similar process like it once or twice a year. So considering that might be popping up within the first half of the year, we want to make sure that we have your application everything in order to apply to Big TED. Because I believe if you're shooting for the stars, we're shooting for the stars, baby. We're shooting for the stars. You feel me? Yes. I'm gonna light this bad boy up. Um, but if you have a great application for TED, then we can use that for TEDx as well. Okay. And we find the TEDx's that are most likely to accept you, right? You. So yes, you can speak at TED. And yes, there are a lot of opportunities to speak at TEDx. But also, my friends, did you know that some of the biggest TED Talks are delivered and spoken at TEDx stages? Some of you might know the name Brene Brown, the vulnerability expert. Okay. Her talk was recorded at TEDx Houston. It was a TEDx event. It wasn't a TED event. Of course, once the team from TED saw it, they're like, we want to invite you to come to our conference. They want to put you on the TED.com main website. So sometimes some of the talks you're actually going to see on TED.com are actually recorded at TEDx events. Okay. So I know that most people who are in this ecosystem are looking at Big TED. They want to speak at Big TED. But my friends, there's a way to get onto Big TED. And so that's what this process is about. That's what the Ideas Ignite Mastermind is about, aiming for Big TED. And if we don't get onto Big TED, then we work to see like which TEDx's you most qualify for. And then if you do a kick-ass job, then hopefully that talk is promoted to TED.com, or that's promoted and they invite you to speak at that stage, or you're just able to utilize it and spread your word. I mean, because the TEDx YouTube channel, I think has over 30 million, some crazy number of subscribers. So anyways, all that to say that the brand in general, the TEDx brand, the TED brand is absolutely phenomenal if you know how to work it right. So if you want to join this process, if you want to join the Ideas That Ignite Mastermind, I would love to have you. We're taking calls now till December 21st is when you can apply to get into the program. Okay. So if you're excited, go ahead and light one up, put a little heart in the stream for me so I can follow up with you, or just drop whatever gem you found most helpful today. I'll make sure to follow up with y'all. Let me just do that real quick. Okay, there we go. Oops. Hold on. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. I don't know if my internet just went out there for a second. But if you are interested, just make sure that you either drop a heart or send me Ignite into the message so I can follow up with you. But definitely check out ignite.donjfraser.com. You'll see a lot more information about the program. And yeah, get onto those calls because we're looking at an amazing cohort. We're making it look an amazing cohort. Okay, so I am so glad to have you all here. I hope that this stream broke down some of those misconceptions around everybody having a talk versus it being accessible, not accessible, around those people who don't feel like they have an idea, some ways that you can like reframe your experiences, those memories, so that you do have an idea. For those who are worried about not having a public speaking experience, we got you. And last but not least, about those who are looking at the difference between TED, TEDx, how do you actually land on these stages? Okay, so if I can support you in this process, feel free. We have one more day of the Days of Igniteness, one more day next week on Tuesday, this exact same channel. Make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on the Facebook group, the Ideas That Ignite Facebook group. We've got one more day of dropping some gems for you in the 7 days of Igniteness. And I hope that you guys are doing great. So I'm just going to jump over to Q&A. Let's see if we have any Q&A for today. If you have any Q&A for today. Okay. I think that we are good then. I think that we're good. I have been speaking for 40 minutes, so I guess that's a bit of time behind it. All right, y'all. This has been great. I hope that these things are not holding you back. If they are, don't let them. If you need to talk about it, jump on a call with me. Jump on a call. You can book a call after submitting application, because I want to make sure that we're touching base with everybody who is interested in this process to get you on board. And all right. Oh, let's see here. We do have questions. Yes, if you are around the world, I see that you might be in a different part of the world. You absolutely can apply. To my Egyptian sister, this necklace actually is from Egypt. It had a cartouche on it. It did have a cartouche on it, and it broke off when I was at a speaking engagement. So unfortunately, it no longer has a cartouche. But one day I will get it. But we have people that are that have applied from Japan. We have people who have applied from Australia, um, Africa. So absolutely. The good thing about the program is that we do meet once a week in person. But in case you are in an audience or a time zone that does not make sense for you, what we do try to do is make sure that we can accommodate you by recording every single reply. So I do something like this. We do like a video reply, either a live video reply, or we have a group where we can actually post that information. So there is a way that we absolutely can accommodate any type of any type of international attendees. So absolutely. Let's see here. Okay, cool. So we don't meet in person as of yet. What we do meet is virtually live on Zoom, right? Because we have people coming in from everywhere. Like I mentioned, somebody could be in Chicago, somebody could be in Japan. Okay. We always meet live in person for the live virtually, excuse me, for the trainings. Now, when it comes to the actual performance, one of the things that I've been considering for this year is actually doing a live event. Typically, what we do is a live online event. So we have a producer that's based out in Brooklyn, New York, and he produces our shows that kind of go out so that people can actually practice their stories. It's awesome. It's such a great event. We always have friends, family, agents. Yes, we have agents that come to some of these things. And so that is typically a virtual online event. However, this year I might do something in person. COVID has been a little tricky to navigate and to manage. So I have not had a live in-person event for at least 2 years. So we're going to have to play that by ear, but I can at least tell you that we will have a live virtual share where you'd be able to invite your family and your friends. Oh, great. Awesome. I lived in Brooklyn for 14 years. Um, so Brooklyn has a big part of my heart. And if you are in Brooklyn, I definitely encourage you to check out The Moth if you haven't already done so, because that is a fabulous way to just kind of get that story, you know, muscle working, right? You can get up on some stages. This goes for anybody, actually. You don't have to be in Brooklyn for this, because the Moth is actually in about 50, um, excuse me, about 30 different states and cities. So chances are, if you're in some type of urban area, you might be close to a Moth event where you can get up and just start practicing sharing your stories. And that's what I did. When I was living in Brooklyn, I got up on stages, practiced sharing my story. The event that actually helped me land my TED Talk was called the Story Collider. The Story Collider. And the story is about science and also based in New York City. But it was a 14-minute talk that I did at the Story Collider that I ended up submitting in addition. So 14 minutes of me talking about this moment at UCLA with my twin brother, in addition to a 2-minute audition video. So those two videos were what actually ended up landing my TED Talk. Okay. If I didn't have that 14 minutes of me speak on stage, I don't know how much other social proof I would have had that I talk about these issues on a regular basis. Does that make sense, y'all? Does that make sense? So as much as possible, I want you getting out there. I want you using your own social media platform to like let people know what you're talking about, or to build your audience, or to build your own show, or to do something that shows that when it comes down to it, we can look and say, this is this person's intellectual property. This is the proof that they're actually been putting in the work, and this is why we think that they are an expert in this field. Okay. Okay. So let's see here. We have a question. It's about sharing the story, but narrowing down what will land the talk. Great. That is the hardest part. That is the hardest part. It's not necessarily about what we can do as a public speaker or as a storyteller, but finding an idea, right? But finding an idea. And since you're mentioning it, one of the things that we'll talk about next week on Tuesday are 5 tips that you can actually use to figure out what your idea might be, as opposed to just what your story or your topic might be. Okay. But just to give you like a little bit of a heads up, of an insight, it's really going to be something that is new-ish to the public, like things that the public possibly knows about or thinks about, but possibly hasn't really leaned into as of yet. Okay. So I think yesterday I gave the example of quiet quitting. Quiet quitting, right? I had never heard of this concept before 2022, when people just started just leaving in droves from their companies, right? But for people who are in HR, they know about this concept, and they can talk about like what's happening and what it means in terms of our mental health, in terms of workforce productivity, right? So for whatever field you're in, there's something that's new and cutting edge or interesting that the rest of the world is probably just about to catch up to, right? Another example of something I was following in the news was this whole crypto FTX blockchain catastrophe that's been happening, right? And so many people have been saying like, okay, is crypto really safe? Like there's the people who are like, this is safe. The other people are like, you know what? And they're saying no, it's not safe. And other people are like, yes, this is the best way to generate generational wealth. And I'll show you why, because we can take out, the middlemen who have been leaving Black people out of the system or leaving women out of the system. We can actually redetermine what it is, that how we function within this space, right? That was a brand new concept to me because I'm not in that space. So what I want you to think about, and actually if you're interested, you can go back to yesterday's training, because I broke down our proprietary process of what it means to get really clear on your idea. And to give you a quick recap of yesterday's, we broke down Ignite into the following. So the I is going to be the center, meaning that's going to be like what the idea is, right? So we're going to lean into that. The G is going to be the story, right? I know that you have a lot of stories, but we want to make sure that we choose the right one that's in service of the idea. Okay. The N is what's new and noteworthy. What's interesting? What are people talking about in the news? What are people talking about that if you were to write about it, people would be like, oh snap, I hadn't thought about that, right? Um, the I is for any type of insights. So for the data, what are the stats? What are the trends? What are people talking about? The T is for the takeaway. If you were to give this one piece of advice to the younger version of yourself, to a cousin, to a relative, to somebody who's out there, what would that takeaway be? What would you want them to do as a result of listening to your 18-minute talk or less? My talk was 6 minutes. So what would that be, that one takeaway be, right? And the E stands for your expertise. Okay. So I'm sure that we all have stories, but we want to tie it back to something that you're actually known for. We want to tie it back to something that you're known for, that we have proof that you've written the book, that you started the show where people come together and do something, right? What is that expertise? You know, so so those are some like that's a big broad picture in terms of like what you can do to really kind of think about which idea might be. If it fits all of these different components, then you're onto the right path. Okay. But if you're still struggling to figure out like what exactly that idea might be, I definitely encourage you to go ahead and just drop me a line so that we can talk in a little bit more detail, because I'm sure that once we kind of peel back these layers, we're going to find some type of gold. We're going to find some gold. It might not be coming to you right away, but that's what I do. That's why I'm a speech coach. That's why I'm a story coach. I help listen. I help listen to your ideas. I help listen to what it is that you're articulating. And we find that one piece, that if you were to talk about it and share it, it could really change the world. That, my friend, is what we want to apply to TED with and to TEDx with. Okay. So that was a great question. I hope that helped to give a little bit of perspective. And once again, if you're looking for the live series, wherever you're watching this, if you want that Ignite framework, just go to yesterday's. That was yesterday's live stream. Okay. So you'll be able to find it here on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I think we're even on YouTube. Okay. So great question. Great question. Any other questions for today's event? This has been great. Y'all are so engaging. I love it. I love it. Any other questions? Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good, y'all. Excellent. Thank you so much for those of you who are able to join us live. If you're watching this on the replay, make sure to just send me a little message on the chat so that we can get a good sense of who you are, what you're all about. If there's any questions I can answer for you. And yeah, make sure you get in those applications for the Ideas That Ignite Mastermind. Deadline is December 21st, and the cohort will be starting in January, leading up to the applications for the TED Global Idea Search. All right, so I'm going to sign off with the way that we started, with a little bit of cheer, a little bit of Christmas cheer. Here we go for our 6th day of Igniteness. Here we go. There we go. Got the candles going. Ah, yes. So, my friends, to your idea that ignites. Sending you lots of love. Take care, y'all.